The sun's warm rays filtered through the lush foliage, casting a golden glow upon the dusty path. It was yet another enchanting day in the realm of Gulia. Amidst the harmonious symphony of nature, a melodic tune resonated from the strings of a man's instrument. The man continued his journey towards the next town. It was just another day on the open road. He delved into his pockets, counting the coins he had earned the night before. 24 coins in one pocket, 19 in the other. The modest tavern had rewarded him with a decent stash. A woman trailing just a breath away whispered with a hint of awe, "Oh, I love that last melody you played. It reminds me of my—" Cutting her off, June raised his voice. "Yanna, stop following me and return to the rebel encampment. They were only trying to kill me, so you'll be safe there. I'm certain your friends will vouch for you if they become a bother." With a burst of determination, Yanna quickened her stride, catching up with June. Her voice dripped with defiance as she retorted, "What so-called friends? Those traitors who attempted to kill you? The rebels are nothing but a swirling abyss of greed and hatred, much like the crown that they oppose. And I refuse to be a part of it anymore." Unable to deny the truth in her words, June shrugged in acquiescence. "My thoughts exactly," he admitted. "They can have their rebellion and all the trouble that comes along with it." As they continued their stride, June clutched his lute tightly as his mind spun in anger. The sting of Hermek's betrayal lingered deep within him. Shifting gears, he glanced at Yanna and changed the subject. "Now that you are free, what are you going to do with yourself?" he inquired with a curious tone. Yanna responded without hesitation, a glimmer of excitement in her eyes. "Oh, the possibilities are limitless," she replied. "Perhaps I shall follow in your footsteps, a lone wolf wandering the world. Besides, I have a companion who owes me a debt of life." Her words echoed with a hint of mystery and intrigue, leaving June more curious than he was before. June looked at her with disbelief, and in a casual tone remarked, "Well, you do what you gotta do." He flipped his lute around and secured it to his back. The duo continued their journey towards the next town. Soon enough, June stretched his arms and began piecing together the puzzle from their conversation. He stared at her, his gaze intensified as asked, "Wait a minute, were you just referring to me about that life debt?" Yanna remained silent, flashing him a mischievous smile. The pair strolled side by side, their conversation filling the air as they exchanged stories and pleasant conversation. June discovered that Yanna was easy to talk to. In the midst of the rebellion encampment, he had only seen her smile once or twice, but now that she was outdoors and in his company, her smile never left her face. Scratching his chin, June forgot the conversation as he felt the roughness of his beard against his calloused fingertips. He was long overdue for a bath, and his dirt-covered clothes could use a good scrub as well. Knights and various military units traveled up and down the road on horseback, ignoring June and Yanna's presence. Security was on high alert after last night. No doubt they were looking for a cart loaded with gold coins and rebels. Despite this, the knights paid them no mind as Yanna and June were two travelers in a land full of them. Despite his apathy, June did feel anxious every time a knight looked his way. Each time a patrol of horse-mounted knights passed them, Yanna and June would go quiet until the coast was clear. After the third or fourth patrol had passed, Yanna whispered, "There are many guards on the road today. Perhaps we should go another way." Shaking his head, June replied, "No need. I don't see any rebels here. Do you?" His confidence somehow comforted her. They continued to walk and have mild conversation until they got within viewing distance of the next town. This village was like nothing June had seen before. Knights on horses stood guard at the entrance. Inside the palisade gate, countless more walked about performing their duties. June and Yanna's pace slowed as they approached. Their apprehension showed in their movement as June slowed to a crawl. Not knowing where they were or what town was ahead, June asked, "Is this the capital city?" Yanna shook her head as she replied, "No, Amora Lattice is the capital. This is the crossroads of Karath. A peaceful town last time I heard. What should we do?" June removed his lute and strummed a small tune as he answered, "Act like a tourist and you shall be treated like one." June played a tune on his lute as they approached the knights at the main gate. His music was only interrupted by the guard shouted, "Halt, civilians! What is your business here?" Answering a question with another question, June replied, "What does it look like I'm doing here?" June strummed his instrument louder for a second, then replied, "Can't you see I'm here to challenge your authority with only my lute and harsh language?" Unamused by June's sarcasm, the knight waved his hand as he said, "Move along, civilian. Mind your business and start no trouble." With a hint of anticipation in the air, June and Yanna stepped through the gate, their eyes widening at the sight that greeted them within. The vibrant town buzzed with an infectious energy, a flurry of activity unfolding before their very eyes. The merry minstrels from the lively tavern had taken their captivating melodies to the streets, their nimble fingers strumming strings and their voices carrying a hopeful tune, all in search of a handful of coins from the knights and soldiers alike. Among the bustling crowd, a handful of civilians could be seen as mere drops in the sea of soldiers and Alestrian knights who dominated the scene. Their once vigilant faces now wore expressions of disdain, as if their duty had morphed into a tiresome chore. Just beyond the sturdy frame of the alchemist's shop, a symphony of snarls echoed through the air, drawing June's attention. Curiosity piqued, he moved closer and witnessed a gathering of guards, huddled together like conspirators, their hard-earned coins clutched in their hands. It became clear that their wagers were placed on a fierce dogfight, their excitement mingling with the scent of adrenaline that hung in the air. But June's gaze didn't linger for long, for he had a purpose in this thriving labyrinth. As if guided by an invisible compass, he located the bathhouse, a sanctuary amidst the chaos. Soldiers streamed in and out, their uniforms transformed from filthy to clean with them. The aroma of travel clung to him, mingling with an unmistakable stench. How Yanna endured his smell was beyond him. June reached out and placed a friendly hand on her shoulder. "Well, lone wolf," he began, his voice filled with gratitude. "Thanks for keeping me company. However, it's time for us to part ways. Take care of yourself." Exuding confidence, Yanna met his words with silence. As June walked away towards the bathhouse, her eyes conveyed a tale untold. And so, June strode away, his footsteps echoing against the narrow streets, seeking the sanctuary of the bathhouse, where he yearned to wash away the weariness of the road and rejuvenate his soul. Handing over his worn garments to be cleansed, June eased himself into the communal bathtub constructed of rustic wooden slats and sturdy iron hoops. The ambiance gave off a peculiar charm, however unfamiliar to June's senses. He found himself surrounded by 5 other men, who engaged in their lively banter. Never before had June been submerged in a bath, accompanied by such an abundance of people. However, he chose to maintain his composure and remained silent. As the soapy water enveloped June's body, gently cleansing away the grime of his journey, his ears caught wind of the conversation being shared. The men delved into an array of intriguing topics. They regaled one another with tales of the beautiful ladies gracing the town. They discussed upcoming hunting expeditions, brimming with formidable game. And they whispered of potential new orders, cascading down from the prestigious capital. This particular topic piqued June's interest, arousing a curiosity that could not be contained. With a subtle question, he interjected himself into the conversation. "New orders? What have you heard?" Unrestrained by any reservations, one of the bathers turned towards June. Without hesitation, he divulged the murmurs of the land. Mind you, it's not yet set in stone, but the whispers of rebel insurgency reached even the farthest corners of Gulia. Fort Dive fell prey to the rebel assault. Such an iconic fortress cannot be left defenseless, not by any means. Once the news reaches the appropriate channels, mark my words, that will be our next destination. Only an arm's length away from June, a nearby soldier doused himself with a bucket of water as he remarked, "It's about bloody time, if you ask me. We've languished idle for far too long. Let the paperwork be done and the messenger's horse swift as can be." Shifting his focus to the man before him, June inquired with curiosity, "If I might ask?" June prodded for details, eager to pry information from the soldier. "How long have you been stationed at the crossroads?" "Already 2 weeks," the man responded without skipping a beat. The occupation of small towns like Karath is nothing but a pointless charade to fatten up and bore knights like me. There's no real danger here or in any other town. The king's losing his mind, plain and simple. Suddenly, another man pointed at him and shouted, "Heresy! Speaking ill of the king is a crime. Arrest this man!" The room erupted in laughter as the men joked and splashed water at each other, resembling mischievous children in a swimming pool. June couldn't help but cover his face to protect himself from the wild antics of the knights. It was a surreal sight, seeing them out of their usual roles. Until now, June had only witnessed their dark deeds, but now a new side of them emerged. As knights in the king's army, they had to possess a sense of humor to endure hard times. Despite being bound by duty, they were still human, each with their own sense of pride, patriotism, and even a touch of shame. Emerging from the water, June located his clothing hanging on a makeshift wooden drying rack and got dressed. He tossed his trusty lute onto his back. Although the garments were still a bit damp, the warmth of the morning sun would surely dry them out. Paying the staff and stepping out of the bathhouse, June felt rejuvenated. Though his clothes bore a few holes here and there, at least they were clean. Sensing an opportunity at hand, June's bardic instincts awakened. The soldiers in town were craving entertainment, and June was ready to make some coins. Yet, an eerie sensation tingled at the back of his mind. Stopping in his tracks, June caught a glimpse of Yanna's intense gaze from the corner of the building. She was still here in town, watching his every move. Swerving away from the tavern's door, June advanced toward Yanna. Before June could say a word to her, his mind went blank as a pair of Alestrian knights rode into town leading a horse-drawn cart. The crowd made way for the convoy as they moved through the busy streets. June sought refuge behind Yanna, shielding his curious stare from the knight's view. Startled by his actions, Yanna interrogated him. "What's the matter with you?" Without warning, June seized Yanna's arms and whisked her away to the shadows behind the nearby building. Hidden behind both Yanna and the edge of the building, he fixed his gaze on the approaching knights as they brought their cart and horse to a halt by the watering trough. However, it wasn't the knights that captured June's attention. It was their captive. A woman with long locks of white hair, a ghostly complexion, and bound by shackles, sat within the cage at the rear of the cart. June's heart raced as he recognized her unmistakable features. It was Valine, without a shadow of doubt. Yanna turned her head to follow June's unwavering stare. Leaning in close, June whispered into her ear, his voice laden with urgency. "Yanna, I don't know what I was going to say before, but I need your help." In the shadows, Yanna and June eyed the Alestrian knights with interest, noting their patterns of guarding the prisoner, entering the pub, and tending to their steeds. They exchanged whispers and ideas, plotting various ideas for the daring rescue, until Yanna asserted, "Time is of the essence. The knights won't remain here for long. If you intend to save that poor soul, decide now, or I shall decide for you." Just as the tension peaked, the first knight emerged from the pub, assuming his watch over the captive. The second knight disappeared within the establishment, lured by his growling stomach. Without waiting for June's response, Yanna stepped out from the corner. A rope caught her eye as it hung from a nearby fence post. June placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder and murmured, "Distract the knight while I take the horses." Yanna continued walking forward as she snatched up the rope and handed it to June. Her voice carried a hint of skepticism as she said, "In this town? Surrounded by soldiers on all sides? You wouldn't make it past the front gate. Even if you did, they would descend upon you in an instant. I have a little something in mind?" The duo exited the town through its northern gate, striding forth until they were concealed from the sentry guard stationed at the entrance. Once they had distanced themselves, Yanna unveiled her intentions. "We're going to play a little game of Functus Arbor if you catch my drift." June's face contorted with confusion, wordlessly in his bewilderment. Yet he found his voice to respond, "Functus what?" Yanna chuckled as she said, "Oh, come on now. I thought a master of ancient weaponry like yourself would have known this one. Functus Arbor, the battle strategy of the tree people. Functus meaning vine, and arbor meaning tree. I've known about it since I was a mere child. Since they entered Karath from the south, it's likely they're headed north towards our location. Let me explain quickly." Yanna scouted out a perfect spot, gesturing with enthusiasm as she pointed out where they should stand. June followed her instructions, setting up the trap the best he could. It reminded him of Geraint and their daring prison escape. As Yanna kept a watchful eye on the road, she whispered, "They're approaching. Get into position." Rising to his feet and preparing his lute, June took his place and let out a sharp exhale. He glanced down the road, spotting the caravan making its way toward them. With a determined tone, he said, "If this plan fails, we'll find ourselves in the back of that very same wagon." Yanna remained silent, well concealed on the opposite side of the road, within a cluster of bushes. As the horse and cart drew nearer, June stepped onto the road and began playing a soothing melody. The knight on horseback brought his steed to a halt, signaling the cart driver to stop with a commanding hand gesture. His armor shimmered under the morning sun as he redirected his attention to June. He bellowed, "Step aside! This is official business." Pretending to be blind and deaf, June offered no response. His trembling hand continued to strum out the best music he could. With a fierce grip on his sword's handle, the knight roared, "Step back, I say! Do you dare tempt fate and meet your demise this very day?" Yet June remained unmoving as he strummed his lute without breaking his composure. Usually his melodies calmed weary travelers, but in this instance, it only tested the knight's growing impatience. After a few seconds, the knight urged his horse forward and unsheathed his blade. Drawing nearer, the knight warned June, "I gave you fair warning. Now prepare to face your reckoning." As the mounted knight closed in, June retreated with caution, clutching his lute as his only means of defense. As the knight drew ever closer, June placed his instrument on the ground and tugged at a concealed rope hidden among the foliage. Unleashing the slipknot, the restrained branch hurtled forward at breakneck speed. Being low to the ground, June evaded the furious swing of the branch and watched as it collided with a brutal crack against the horse's neck. Though the trap's intended target had been the knight himself, the poor animal reared up on its hind legs, thrashing with pain as it flung its rider to the cold, hard ground. While the trap had missed its original mark, the outcome remained the same. With a resounding thud, the knight crashed down. Regaining his footing, June dashed over to the dazed knight, planted one foot on his chest plate, and declared, "Stay down. You're not the only one handing out reckoning anymore." From the safety of the cart driver's seat, the second knight had witnessed his companion's fall. Without hesitation, he jumped down to the ground and unsheathed his sword, ready to join the fray. But just as he prepared to strike, Yanna emerged from the bushes, her every movement filled with fiery determination. With a swift motion, she drew her pistol as the cold steel caught a glint from the sunlight. Pointing it at the knight, her voice rang out, "Heartless butchers of the king." Before the knight could utter a response, Yanna slapped the striking pin with her pocket knife, setting ablaze an instantaneous burst of fire that erupted from the pistol's barrel. The bullet tore through the knight's plate armor, piercing his chest. He crumpled to his knees, overwhelmed by the pain. Wasting no time, Yanna disappeared into the billowing smoke as she darted towards the lone horse as it retreated in her direction. Its mane still covered in leaves from the impact on the branch, she seized the reins and mounted the beast with grace. Relieving his fallen knight of his weapons, June hurled the sword deep into the tree line. He then released his foot from the knight's chest and ran to the cart. Scaling into the driver's seat, June remembered he wasn't the finest rider in the land, but this was no time to learn. With a crack of the reins and a wicked cry of, "Heya!" June whipped the aged steed into action. Determination coursed through the horse's veins as it propelled the cart forward, easily overcoming its old age and weariness. Inside the prison wagon, Valine tumbled about, the sound of her clanging shackles echoing against the nearby trees. Casting a glance over his shoulder, June witnessed the surviving knight slowly rise to his feet, struggling to comprehend the turn of events. His mind struggled to accept the reality that their convoy had been stolen. Yanna and June galloped down the road, their path soon veering off the beaten path and into the forest. Taking the lead on her horse, Yanna eased the pace to a steady trot. She cast a victorious smile back toward June. Their shared exhilaration spoke volumes. With a grace that appeared almost like a dance, Yanna dismounted her steed. As June joined her on the solid ground, a mischievous grin played upon Yanna's lips, taunting him. June couldn't help but scold her, his voice heightened with concern. "That pistol is going to get you killed or worse. Don't make me regret teaching you how to shoot." Yanna, donning an expression dripping with sarcasm as she retorted, "Oh, come now, we had every advantage. Besides, the heist we pulled off at the Fort Dive makes this escapade look like child's play." Yanna retrieved a bag from her knapsack while June continued his rant. "Every time you fire that thing, everyone can hear it, and they know where you are." Reloading her trusty weapon, she replied with pride, "Good, the entire world should tremble at the sound." Still catching her breath but brimming with curiosity, Valine rose from the floor of her cage. Her eyes flickered with intrigue as she listened to June and Yanna's conversation. Unable to contain herself, she asked, "What is happening here? Are you two kidnapping me or orchestrating a jailbreak?" Turning on his heels, June greeted her with a playful twinkle in his eyes. "Yes, Valine, we haven't forgotten about you. We'll be with you in a moment." Valine's eyes widened in recognition. "June, is that you? My hero. You changed your hair color, but the sight of your lute gave you away." Raising an eyebrow, Yanna whispered to June, "Wait, you know this girl?" Ignoring Yanna's words, June retorted to Valine, "Give us a second. We are going to get you out of there before an angry group of knights show up and spoil this happy reunion." Yanna finished reloading her pistol and approached the prison cart with a confident smirk. Placing the barrel against the lock, she declared, "Pleasure to make your acquaintance. Stand back for a moment." With a single shot, the pistol unleashed a thunderous blast, shattering the padlock into a flurry of molten shards. The shockwave rippled through the forest, scattering birds and startling nearby animals. June, Yanna, and Valine retreated deeper into the forest, leading the horses and leaving the abandoned cart behind. As they ventured onward, June regaled them with the tale of his far from heroic escape from jail and subsequent alliance with the rebellion. Once June's story concluded, Yanna interjected, narrating June's ingenious invention of her pistol and their audacious plan to plunder Fort Dive. She omitted the painful details of June's betrayal and near-death experience on purpose, understanding the rawness of those memories for him. Like clockwork, Valine began recounting her own narrative. She recounted, "After June's arrest, I lingered at the Tree People's checkpoint, persuading Neras and his companions that returning home was in their best interest. Days passed, and news of a possible mutiny reached the ears of the constable. To make an example, he ordered the execution of 3 Tree People whom he believed were conspiring against the crown. However, as the preparations were underway, a revolt erupted. By day's end, the only body hanging from that tree was the constable's." Valine continued her account. Yet, a handful of knights managed to escape and report the mutiny. It was only a matter of time before they returned with reinforcements and orders to annihilate us. Those with a shred of self-preservation fled. Most of the Tree People scattered into the depths of the Romasian forest or vanished into the countryside. And wouldn't you know it, a few days later the blame began pointing in my direction. Who could have predicted that?" In a playful manner, June quipped, "Well, what are the odds of that? The mutineer being charged with mutiny. Who could have seen that coming?" Valine and Yanna burst into laughter, appreciating the irony in his words. As they reached their camping spot deep into the woods, Valine and June collaborated to build a sizable campfire, while Yanna skillfully gathered food for their meal. In the distance, the echoes of Yanna's pistol shots reached June's ears, their sound carrying throughout the entire forest and beyond. Valine praised Yanna's impressive weapon, remarking, "Your firearm is like nothing I have ever seen before. Yanna seems to have taken quite a liking to it." June quipped back at Valine, "Oh, but Yanna is wild with that pistol. No sense of discipline, like a kid with a shiny new toy." Grabbing 2 suitable stones and some kindling, Valine joined June near the fire. Glancing up at him, she replied, "So what?" and began striking the stones together, attempting to create a spark. June countered, "So what? You know how rumors spread." The knights at the crossroads were already buzzing about the rebellion and the raid on Fort Dive. Before you know it, the king will outlaw anyone carrying a pistol. If Yanna is caught with one, she'll either end up in jail or worse. A spark danced into the kindling as Valine retorted with a sharp edge. Well, look at you, all worried about your new girlfriend. I guess more than your hair has changed. Girlfriend? June exclaimed. His face contorted. You're reading too much into it. Yanna and I fought side by side in the rebellion. She saved my life. Blowing a few gentle breaths on the kindling, Valine nestled it among the logs, leaning back to witness the flames grow. She glanced at June, her words laced with innuendo. Funny how a small spark can ignite a roaring fire. Wouldn't you agree? Unfazed by her suggestive remark, June sank down and leaned against a tree. Changing the subject as he inquired, So, what's our next move? Any plans? Valine blew on the flames, causing them to spread. She withdrew from the campfire and responded, The flames will consume everything. We just need to get out of the way. Still unimpressed, June shot back. I wasn't talking about the campfire. Valine quipped, Neither was I. If what you're saying holds true, the rebels possess a new weapon that threatens to wrestle control from the king and his knights. Anyone caught carrying one will be considered a menace, to be killed or captured. Pondering the situation for a moment, June realized his grave mistake. Introducing the pistol to the rebellion was a disaster waiting to happen. He admitted, The king may have the manpower, but his knights are outmatched. For now, the rebels have evened the playing field. Seeing June's expression turn to a subtle shade of gray, Valine's curiosity sparked to life. With a touch of intrigue, she turned her head to one side as she exclaimed, Does that bother you? The Elestrian knights are nothing but executioners, mere pawns held by the throne. June's head shook from side to side in a resolute gesture as he said, No, Valine, they are soldiers just following orders. From the outside looking in, I can understand your views, but they are just people like you and I. The sound of footsteps rustling through the underbrush interrupted their conversation. June turned to find Yanna returning to the campfire, carrying the lifeless body of a large bird in one hand and her pistol in the other. With a smile, she queried, What's the topic of discussion, you two? Valine was just informing me about the impending clash, Hermec and the rebels versus the king and his knights. June shared, arranging sticks for a spit roast. Yanni brandished her pocket knife, dropping the lifeless bird, and began stripping it of its feathers. She remarked, Good. I hope the king gets his rightful retribution. Valine countered, Only if the rebellion receives the support they need. Once word spreads that the rebels can stand against the king's knights, I bet they'll gain new recruits. Challenging Valine, June replied, True, but once the rebellion grows strong enough to outnumber the knights, the king will summon soldiers from Fort Gates and other locations to crush the uprising. Either way, it's a bloodbath. No one wins. Valine's piercing eyes locked her gaze upon him, her hands finding their place atop her head again. A subtle smirk crossed her lips, revealing a mix of admiration. Oh, June, she uttered, her voice tinged with a hint of skepticism. Your words may whisper neutrality, but your actions reveal the truth. You went out of your way to free one of the king's captives. June's inner turmoil was noticeable as a burning response grew within him. He hesitated for a moment, his voice faltering as he sought to defend his actions. That was different, he finally confessed, his tone pitted with both remorse and determination. If we could have done it without bloodshed, we would have. Yanna impaled the bird on a skewer and positioned it over the fire as she said, Nobody said revolution was easy, June. She then asked, Oh, could you grab the seasonings from my knapsack, please? Complying with her request, June retrieved the seasonings and stumbled upon something peculiar in her bag, a small black berry wrapped in a paper with the word Belladonna inscribed on it. Handing her the seasonings, June inquired, What is Belladonna? In a moment of panic, Yanna warned, Don't touch it. It's poisonous. Hermec handed them out before the mission in case we're captured. He said it's a peaceful way out, rather than betraying our fellow rebels. With a sly grin, June remarked, Hermec didn't give me one. With a bit of sarcasm, Yanna retorted, snatching the seasoning from his hand. Probably because he knew you wouldn't need it. Once the bird was seasoned, Yanna handed the skewer to June, who returned it to the open flame. Yanna retrieved her canteen from her bag and removed the lid. After taking a sip, she offered it to June. He accepted it, taking a swig of water while tending to the bird over the fire. Valine eyed them both with a smirk from a distance and remarked, "Still don't have your own canteen, June?" As midday melted into evening, the trio sat around under shade trees, exchanging stories and laughing. Valine fashioned a makeshift spear from a sharpened branch, ever prepared for a fight even in this moment of respite. The campfire resonated with June's melodic lute playing. Yanna and Valine engaged in conversation as the day waned. Although the atmosphere was pleasant, June's thoughts lingered on their earlier discussion. The impending chaos of this world was a consequence of his actions. Snapping out of his trance, June ceased playing the lute and asked, "Sorry, what was your question?" Valine repeated herself. "I asked, what would you have wished for if the capstone had been in Fort Dives?" With a nod, June responded, that. You know me. All I ever wished for was to go home, have a burger, and drive my car. You know, normal stuff." With a distorted look, Valine retorted, "Yeah, sounds boring. I would wish for an infinite amount of coin to do with as I pleased. Buy whatever I want, go wherever I want. That would be nice." Looking at Yanna, Valine asked, "What about you?" After pondering for a while, Yanna replied with a hint of bitterness, "The rebellion took me in promising to protect me, but as June and I discovered firsthand, they are nothing but a bunch of backstabbers." A solitary tear formed in Yanna's eye as she wiped it away without hesitation. Losing track of the conversation, she composed herself and declared, "My wish would be for the king to meet his demise and for a new leadership to rise in our kingdom." June was struck by her words and questioned her. "Really, I thought you would wish—" Cutting him off, Yanna declared, "To bring my family back? I could wish for that, but it would only enrage the king, leading to their deaths once more, and countless others. Why plant a tree while the forest still burns?" Silence settled between them as the weight of her words sank in. At that moment, June's mind began to churn. Although he couldn't pinpoint the exact solution, he knew something more was required than mere music, drinking, and good time spent with his friends. A stain had tainted his soul from the moment he arrived, and now he was determined to rectify it. As the evening transitioned into night, the trio gathered additional firewood for their campfire. It was unusual for travelers to sleep in the forest due to the fear of bats. But Valine assured them that the size of their campfire would ward off any predators. June played his music, accompanying the fading night sky adorned with sparkling stars. Yanna sat beside him on his left, while Valine remained a few feet away on his right. Each took turns making up lyrics to accompany the melodies he played. As June's eyelids grew heavy, he halted his play and jolted himself awake. Glancing to his left and right, he noticed Valine's and Yanna dozing off. June rose and added more logs to the fire, relishing in the comforting warmth that embraced his hands. Resuming his seat, June leaned back, using Yanna's knapsack as a makeshift pillow. Faint echoes of bat wings reached his ears, but exhaustion dulled his concern. His thoughts drifted back to Yanna's wish, lulling him into his own realm of dreams. The next morning, June opened his eyes to find the campfire fading, reduced to a long trail of smoke and ashes. The rising sun peeked over the horizon, heralding a new day. Yanna still slept, leaning against him, while Valine was now absent. Craning his stiff neck, June searched for her, but she was nowhere to be seen. Even her spear had vanished. Perhaps she had ventured off on foot. Rousing Yanna, June stood up and stretched his weary legs. A night spent sleeping on the forest floor hadn't been the most comfortable, but it beat the cold, cavernous floors of the rebel encampment. Worried about Valine, Yanna called out, her voice echoing through the trees. Multiple attempts yielded no response until the final call, which brought an unexpected reply. June's heart sank as he glimpsed the sight of white cloth against steel armor. She was being pursued by Alestrian knights. Valine raced toward the camp, her voice piercing the air with a single desperate plea. "Run!" In an instant, June's realization struck like lightning. The Knights of Karath had found them, as the swirling campfire smoke had become an unintentional beacon for them. 4 or 5 knights charged forward, shields up with weapons poised like coiled serpents ready to strike. They were closing fast as they darted past the surrounding trees. With swift determination, June assisted Yanna to her feet, slinging his lute across his back. He rushed to the horses, pulling the first upright without hesitation. Valine leaped onto the back of the second horse, tugging at the reins. The weary beast groaned as it struggled to rise from its night's rest. "Enemies of the king, meet your demise!" The knights bellowed their menacing orders, closing in on the scene. The first knight, bursting into the clearing, wasted no time and charged directly toward Valine's mount. Without hesitation, June seized a half-burned, smoldering log from the dying fire and hurled it at the oncoming knight. The log erupted into a shower of scorching embers, cascading over the knight like a brilliant fireworks display. Piercing screams of pain echoed as the fiery embers found their way through the crevices of his armor, searing his clothes and scalding his skin. As Valine regained control of her horse, she lapped the reins yet again, urging the exhausted creature forward and away from their relentless pursuers. She would not allow herself to become a prisoner again. With her belongings in hand, Yanna mounted the remaining horse and called out, "Come on!" With a seamless leap, June joined Yanna on the rear of the horse while she drew a pistol from her bag, eliminating a second knight who dared approach. A cloud of smoke enveloped the air as the fallen knight lay motionless on the ground. With a swift kick, Yanna's horse surged forward, leaving their pursuers behind. June surveyed the tree line for any sign of Valine, but she had vanished into the labyrinth of branches and towering tree trunks. The horse galloped through the dense forest, the whipping branches lashing at Yanna and June from every angle. Making it to the next clearing, June once again looked for Valine, but she was nowhere to be found. Perhaps she took a different route, or she was still in the forest. Either way, June was positive that she escaped capture. As June rode alongside Yanna to the next town, he couldn't help but be awestruck by her riding skills, which far surpassed his own. As her golden locks danced in the wind, he caught a faint whiff of flowers, adding a touch of enchantment to the moment. However, June's enjoyment of the horseback journey paled in comparison to Yanna's. His ride was painful, without the comfort of the saddle. He glanced around to get his bearings, but couldn't resist asking, "So, where are we headed?" With a graceful gesture, Yanna pointed her left hand into the distance and replied, "See the smoke on the horizon? We are headed to that town over yonder. I don't know what it is called, but we'll know once we arrive." Leaving the open field behind and returning to the road, Yanna slowed the horse to a trot, allowing June a momentary respite to dismount. June's groin throbbed with pain. It was an unfamiliar discomfort. The first time he rode a horse, he felt no such pain. Now, however, he found himself doubled over in agony. Coming to a halt, Yanna turned her attention to June, concern etched on her face. "Are you all right?" she inquired. Brushing off the discomfort, June straightened himself up and reassured her, "I'll be fine. The first time I rode a horse, I was in a saddle. I had no idea how important that was." Hopping off the saddle, Yanna offered him solace, saying, "Yeah, bareback riding isn't exactly meant for men. But we didn't have much time to switch things around. My apologies." June nodded understandingly, walking it off. They were now just a few hundred feet away from the nearest town. Yanna took hold of the reins, walking beside him, chuckling under her breath at their predicament. Up ahead, they encountered a sprawling plantation adorned with rows of trees. June found it peculiar until a sign revealed their location as Pershaw, home of the river tree. Intrigued, June couldn't help but ask Yanna, "What is a river tree?" Yanna chuckled and replied, "It is what it sounds like, a tree that thrives and grows faster when given ample water. How could you not know this?" Catching herself, she quickly added, "Oh, that's right. I almost forgot your June of high school time, traveler." June shot back, accompanied by a smile. "Don't remind me. I had almost forgotten modern conveniences like air conditioning and healthcare." As June strolled into the bustling town, Yanna resisted as she wore her skepticism on her sleeve. This quaint village seemed to overflow with military units. marching in and out, creating an atmosphere charged with urgency. Navigating through the commotion, the duo led their horse toward the inviting watering trough. Nearby, a pair of knights leaned against the wall of the blacksmith's shop, awaiting the sharpening of their weapons. As they engaged in hushed conversation, their voices reached June and Yanna's ears. "Things are taking a turn for the worse out there," remarked one knight, his tone tinged with concern. "Reports of rebel attacks have multiplied." Nodding in agreement, the second knight responded, "Indeed. The talk in the barracks is that these rebels possess a weapon capable of devouring one's very soul. Of course, our esteemed commander dismisses such tales as sheer nonsense." Avoiding the intriguing conversation of the two knights, June pulled Yanna's hand, guiding her towards the alleyway. Hidden from prying eyes, June leaned in close and whispered, his voice laced with secrecy, "Word of our dirty deeds travel quickly in this land." A flicker of worry danced in Yanna's eyes as she leaned back against the solid wall, her voice betraying her. "We should not loiter in the open. We are too close to the capital, bound to attract unwanted attention." Before June could respond, a voice intruded upon his thoughts, piercing his consciousness. "Young lovers," it echoed in their minds. Turning their gaze toward the rear of the blacksmith's shop, the pair discovered a mysterious woman clad entirely in black robes, her short white hair tied in a ponytail. Savoring a cup of tea, she sat in front of a small shop window. Her voice reverberated within their minds, enticing them with her words, "I possess the knowledge you seek. A visit to Zanag's shop is what you need." Raising her hand toward the door, the woman beckoned June and Yanna, tantalizing them with promises. "Desiring insights into your fate? Longing to unravel the mysteries of your future and the number of children you will have? I can sate your curiosity. Destiny beckons." Rolling her eyes at the woman's absurd claims, Yanna turned to walk away. Yet June, unable to resist a playful jab, grabbed her waist and shouted, "Behold, darling, a fortune-teller, your favorite." The lady swung open the door, beckoning them inside with an alluring gesture. As they stepped forward, June couldn't help but to be fascinated with her appearance. She was a vision straight out of a movie, draped in a flowing black robe that revealed a simple gray dress beneath. Intricate white tattoos adorned the dark skin of her arms, adding an enigmatic touch to her already captivating appearance. She was a character that commanded attention. June entered Zanag's mystical emporium, with Yanna trailing behind, her disapproval etched on her face with a clear expression. Settling at a small table, June was enveloped in a symphony of fragrances as the scent of incense mingled with the aroma of chalk incantations adorning the walls. With a whisper, Zanag vanished into the depths of her back room, promising, "Just a moment, as I gather my things." Yanna, taking a seat beside June, couldn't contain herself any longer. "Why are we subjecting ourselves to this?" she grumbled. June shrugged, his eyes fixed on the door leading to the unknown. "You said we need to get out of the streets. This will buy us time to think about our next move." Yanna huffed in her frustration. "Our next move should be leaving this wretched town, not having our fortunes read by a mysterious Dryadalis woman." Perplexed by the unfamiliar term, June reached into his pocket, extracting a coin, poised and ready to pay for the lady's services. Emerging from the back room, Zanag materialized in a swirling puff of smoke that seemed to defy reality itself. Her once simple black robe now morphed into a vibrant purple, reminiscent of something from a carnival. Taking her seat, she rolled up her sleeves, revealing a mesmerizing tapestry of bright-colored tattoos against her dark complexion. Her eyes shimmered with an ever-changing color, intensifying the air of mystique that surrounded her. With an air of mystique and confidence, Zanag sat with her fingers crossed as she declared, "Ah, so you yearn to unveil the truth of the future. I possess the ability to decipher the secrets etched upon your palms, as if they were words in a book. But behold." Her outstretched hands invited a connection while her eyes shut in anticipation. "Grasp my hands." June reached for Zanag's right hand, while Yanna clutched her left with a reluctant sigh. As their hands touched, a tremor overcame Zanag, causing her to squeeze, then release Yanna's hand. Zanag balled her hand into a fist, and after a fleeting moment of fury, she turned her gaze toward Yanna, and uttered, "Your destiny, my dear, is woven with threads of hatred and blood. By embracing these burdens, you deny yourself a future." Pausing for breath, she continued, "Alas, the cloud of vengeance that engulfs your mind obscures my vision. It is a poisonous cloud that prevents me from glimpsing beyond." "I see," Yanna said with an irritated tone. She stood up and maneuvered around June, pausing only to remark to June, "Apologies, but I've had my fill of prophecies for today. I'll be waiting outside." As Yanna departed, June's hand remained steadfast within Zanag's palm. With the closing of the shop door, Zanag's words reverberated through his mind once again. She proclaimed, "These hollow eyes can see your fate is clear as the radiant morning sun. You embody both the student and the bard, the outlaw and the artist." Speechless, June reeled back with astonishment. Zanag's piercing gaze bore into his eyes, her own irises shifting in hues of different colors. She continued, "Ah, the Umbral Capstone. It reveals itself to my sight. Yes, within you the strength to wield it resides, though the path to its discovery eludes you." June nodded, barely audible as he whispered, "Yes, where can I find it?" "You already possess the knowledge of its whereabouts," Zanag replied. "It lies where stone brushes the sky, never beyond the reach of man. It is the king's cherished relic, his weapon of last resort. The Umbral Capstone rests in his possession, intertwining with your very destiny." Zanag released June's hand and reclined in her chair exhausted. June's heartbeat raced as the weight of Zanag's words settled upon him. Rising from the table, he declared, "If the king has the capstone on him right now, and if I somehow got close enough to use it, I could go home today, right?" She shook her head, affirming the truth. However, a tinge of disappointment dimmed the sparkle in her eyes as she uttered, "I can discern only two paths that lie within your grasp. The radiant and the obscure, life and demise, the one you yearn for and the other you adamantly reject. Even now." June couldn't help but scoff at her words as he said, "I already know which one I desire. What is this other option?" With an outstretched arm, Zanag pointed towards Yanna waiting outside and declared, "You have a captivating woman by your side, a fierce spirit seeking a rock in the storm and a strong arm to lean on. Take her away from all of this. Stop running and take her away from it all. Find some land, build a home, and have some kids. You will find the best revenge for your enemies is being happy and living well." A whirlwind of thoughts about destiny and fate swirled in June's mind. Was she onto something? Should he abandon his longing to return home? Before his doubts could cross his lips, Zanag extended her hand, revealing a tiny hourglass with grains of sand cascading through its narrow passage. As the last grains trickled down, she extended her palm and beamed, "Thank you for your visit. That will be 2 coins, please." After settling the fee, June stepped out into the presence of Yanna. She spoke, but her words were drowned out by the thought in June's head. His mind was entangled in a web of questions, though he dared not voice them aloud. Returning to the town square, a detachment of soldiers, wearing white garb and gleaming armor, marched in unison. June and Yanna moved aside, allowing the disciplined formation to pass through. Once the formation had vanished from sight, Yanna leaned close to June, whispering in his ear, "I apologize for leaving you like that. Fortune tellers are nothing but illusions, void of any true foresight. Smoke and mirrors, without the mirrors." Lost in the lingering echoes of Zanag's words, June remained silent. Instead, he sought the embrace of a nearby tavern, seeking refuge at a weathered table. The bar housed a few slumbering patrons, strewn about. Absent were the looming figures of knights and soldiers who roamed the streets. This peace and quiet was what June craved in that moment. Yanna, sensing June's uncharacteristic silence, took her place beside him, her words laced with genuine curiosity. "All right, something's clearly amiss. What troubles you?" With apprehension, June unraveled the tapestry of his encounter with the mysterious fortune teller. He divulged every detail, the woman's uncanny knowledge of his bardic nature, her keen insight into his criminal tendencies, and her revelation about the elusive Umbral Capstone. The only detail he omitted was the tantalizing mention of their shared destiny and the raising of a family. As the last of his tale echoed in the air, Yanna's voice rang out, tinged with disbelief. June. She exploited the obvious. Your lute nestled upon your back is an unmistakable sign of a bard. Your dyed blonde hair with its telltale dark roots growing in. It could have led her to mention your criminal past. And of course, who wouldn't yearn to lay hands upon the capstone? It was a ploy, crafted by her all for the meager sum of 2 coins. Doubts filled June's mind as he pondered over Yanna's words. Her assurances seemed questionable and lacked the depth to sway him. Yet, before he could voice himself further, Yanna placed one gentle hand upon his and uttered, "Relax here. Let me fetch us something to eat. No one can think on an empty stomach." With that, Yanna rose from her seat and made her way to the bar. Moments later she returned, bearing 2 plates adorned with unfamiliar meals and glasses brimming with drink. June's hunger gnawed at him, although the food before him was a mystery, resembling a peculiar version of biscuits and gravy. The gravy, a rich brown color, was tantalizing specks of meat. He took a bite and discovered that the taste was pleasing enough. As Yanna and June savored their miniature feast in the solitude of the pub, an unfamiliar thought tugged at June's consciousness. He found himself thinking of Yanna in a new light. Perhaps there was a glimmer of truth in the fortune-teller's words. His gaze drifted towards the window, revealing the grandeur of Umbral Lattice, the capital city towering in the distance. The spire of the castle reached high into the air, an architectural wonder that could rival the skyscrapers of his own home. Echoing the words of Zanag, June muttered, "In the place where stone touches the sky." Caught off guard, Yanna inquired, "What did you just say?" June shook his head, brushing it off as he reassured her. "It was nothing. I was just thinking about my grand scheme." With an air of nonchalance, Yanna replied, "Ah, that's the June I know. I knew all you needed was some food to rekindle your spark. So do tell me, where shall we venture next?" Taking Yanna's hand in his, June pointed towards the distant castle and declared, "To the capital! That is where our path leads us." Yanna's head tilted in a gesture of utter astonishment, her eyes widening in disbelief as a single word escaped her lips. "What?" June reiterated himself, leaning over the table in hushed tones. June revealed, "Everywhere I've traveled in this land, I've witnessed the same corruption that festers within this world. King Alestro has tainted the hearts and minds of those he claims to protect. Removing him is the solution to all of it. No more clashes between rebels and the throne, no more innocent lives swinging from the gallows, and no more towns, like yours, reduced to ashes." Yanna's anticipation grew as June spoke, her eyes filled with hope. June went on, "You said to yourself when we first met, everyone is angry, but no one wants to take the first step. I say we take that step. It's like lopping off the head of a beast, you know?" As those words settled in, Yanna nodded, her agreement laced with enthusiasm. "Yes, I see your point. It's a victory for everyone. I get my revenge, and if luck is on our side, we'll find the capstone so you can return to your time." Without a doubt in his mind, June said, "It's a win-win situation." Filled with excitement, Yanna grabbed June's hands, overwhelmed by the prospect of success. Her eyes shimmered with a newfound determination as she contemplated avenging her family. With a hint of eagerness, she asked, "Can I be the one to take the shot?" "Oh, never mind. Just tell me, what's the plan? I want all the details." With shame in his voice, June confessed, "That's all I've got. I couldn't go into much detail because I wasn't sure if you were on board." In an instant, all the light in Yanna's eyes faded. Her smile disappeared as she uttered, "Are you kidding me? That's it? Your grand plan is to assassinate the king without any strategy to breach the gate, dealing with the countless guards, or anything?" "I never claimed it was a good plan," June admitted. Yanna continued to berate him. "No, it's not. In fact, it's not a plan at all. Killing the king is merely an idea, not a well-thought-out strategy." June inhaled, his voice brimming with anticipation. "Hey, remember Hermek's Operation Valiant Hope? You know that daring plan to send in a charming bard to win over the castle staff and slip into the palace?" Yanna's expression shifted from disbelief to anger. No way. I mean, yeah, I remember the plan, but we're not actually considering it, are we? Rising to his feet, June grasped Yanna's hand and pulled her up. He pointed her to the window with the capital city far in the distance. He said, "Listen, we've got the bard with his enchanting tunes, the sharpshooting lady who never misses a target, and the element of surprise on our side. What more do we need?" Turning toward June, Yanna looked deep into his eyes, wondering if he was crazy or not. But there was no trace of doubt in his gaze. After a moment, she responded, her angry voice brimming with curiosity. "I see what you're doing. Trying to appeal to my thirst for revenge, despite your half-baked plan." Casting a smile, June hoped to win her over. Yanna glanced at the distant city of Umbral, then back into June's earnest eyes and relented. "There are a lot of gray areas to work around, but if it fails, we can always regroup and come up with something better." "That's the spirit," June exclaimed, seizing her wrist. He spun her around in a complete circle, as if they were dancing. Caught off guard, Yanna's eyes widened as June spoke with a playful tone. "Let's give it a shot. What's the worst that could happen?" Yanna responded without hesitation. "Oh, you want suggestions? How about death, dismemberment, blood loss, imprisonment, and wiping out your entire bloodline, including yourself? Did I leave anything out?" June seized her hand and flashed a confident smile. "Ah, your negativity only fuels my determination." Emerging from the cozy confines of the pub, Yanna and June seized hold of their stolen steed, ready to embark on a journey toward the capital city of Umbral. With a shared glance brimming with anticipation, their smiles mirrored the sparks of hope and fear igniting within. Fate had beckoned them, and they answered back. Together, Yanna and June pressed onward. The road stretched before them like a blank canvas waiting to be painted. The winds whispered secrets in their ears as the world awaited the small but meaningful role they were destined to play.